50, the progressive voice of Minnesota, in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in Seattle, 1150 AM KKNW. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Tuesday. Good to have you here today. We've got some good guests for you today. Patrick Cooligan coming up in the next hour from, of course, the Minnesota Reformer, talking about some of the news going on there. But coming up a little bit later on this hour, it is Bill Corbett is going to join us to talk the guy from Riff Tracks. That's right. He's going to be back there doing a live show coming up here on Thursday. But as well, he always likes to talk politics, so we will enjoy chatting with him. Patrick, how are you today?
Doing pretty well. Glad to be here.
Glad you are here, too. There is a very interesting thing that happened today, which tells you how really different our world is today compared to in the past, and how things are just, your perspective is kind of changed dramatically, I think. And that is, did you hear Tay-Tay's got a new album coming on out right here?
Yes, I did.
All right. Taylor Swift. You're a big fan, right?
Huge fan.
Have you seen the new Mark Maron special on HBO?
I have not. No.
Oh, see that there's a very good bit about that he does. It's funny, but it's also really good about Taylor Swift. And so, who doesn't love Tay-Tay? Everyone likes Tay-Tay. Well, unless you're another team in the AFC West, but still, everyone likes Tay-Tay. She has announced her 12th studio album, The Life of a Showgirl. This is a lot of speculation from fans. Apparently, rumors began on Monday morning when the singer's marketing team posted a carousel of 12 photos with the caption, "Thinking about when she said, 'See you next era.'" And the hours that followed, Swift's official website began a countdown to basically 12:12. So it was Eastern time. So it was 11:12 our time, 12:12 East Coast, when her boyfriend, NFL star Travis Kelce, confirmed that she'd be the guest on his this week's podcast of his, New Heights. The title of the album was revealed. Once again, The Life of a Showgirl. On Swift herself on the social media clip trailing Kelce's podcast, and the record was simultaneously made available for pre-order on her website. I don't know if I'm going to guess there's going to be a tour, but I mean, if she goes back on tour again, my goodness. I mean, she was on tour for 2 years with that last one, and all arena shows, and all of them exhausting. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe she waits another album, then does it again, do 2 albums, because I can't even see how she would be able to pull that off. I mean, just be exhausting to do another worldwide tour where every show is sold out. It'd be crazy.
Yeah, it is definitely props to her for that energy.
Yeah. Here's where this gets a little bit. Let me just, I'm 56 years old. I have gone through a few of the tragedies that have happened in our world, in our lifetime over those years. And I distinctly remember when 9/11 happened, and I remember it was kind of one of those things where it was right before my son was born. I mean, things seemed to be going well. I mean, we were with W. Bush, but it wasn't great. I mean, and on the political side, but things were fine. I'd bought a house, things were going well, and things were kind of, going light and easy overall. I mean, things weren't really stressful. And I know that's painting with a wide brush. I mean, probably for a lot of people, even before that happened, that was pretty stressful. But then I remember the jarring nature of the tragic news and how things changed like this. And it was pretty stark, because there wasn't a lot of negativity. I mean, we'd gotten through the Gore v. Bush stuff, and, it was kind of getting into the NFL season, stuff like this. But yeah, obviously things, it's a dramatic thing that happened. I don't know if it's just because everything right now is it's not 9/11 horrible, but it's definitely negative. I mean, and, we could talk about the fact that we now have, government troops on the streets of our 7th largest metro area in the country. Plans to basically, get to all this stuff here. Plans to put an reactionary military force in our major metropolitan areas, deploying troops against U.S. citizens over the entire country, all these liberal areas. This story comes on out, and I'm like, oh, that's right. I remember what it was like to have news that was light and fun and airy, and it's just an incredibly different vibe, because, man, this is getting depressing in this country. It is getting downright depressing. And, you know, I'll tell you, I'll get to the markets here in a little bit, but let's go to DC right now. Muriel Bowser, the mayor of DC, has pledged to work side by side with the federal government as National Guard troops arrived at their headquarters in the Capitol. The show of force came after Trump announced that he was sending the National Guard to the Capitol and putting city police under federal control, even though the violent crime rate is at a 30-year low. Speaking with, and basically the entire argument, and I'll get back to this here in a second, is there's 14 and 15-year-olds who are out of control. We need the military to shoot them in the face. That's kind of the mentality. Speaking after the meeting with the Attorney General Pam Bondi, the Justice Department, Bowser told reporters, I won't go into the details of the operational plan at this point, but you'll see the Metropolitan Police Department working side by side with our federal partners, aka militarized troops, in order to enforce the effort that we need around the city. Bowser has cultivated a delicate working relationship with Trump since his return to power in January, avoiding direct confrontations when possible. On Tuesday, she struck a conciliatory tone, and she said she would try to make the most of the extra resources to fight crime. What I'm focused on is the federal surge and how to make the most of this additional officer support that we have. We have the best in the business in the MPD, Metro Police Department, and Chief Pamela Smith to lead that effort and make sure that the men and women are coming from federal law enforcement are being well used in that. However, other Democratic mayors across the country have adopted a different tone, warning Trump against expanding law enforcement power grab in the other major cities. Trump told reporters on Monday, we have other cities that are also bad. That's called foreshadowing, people. Now, there is, let's talk a little bit about why Trump is doing this. Okay. They put out initially some pictures of DC from like 1940. And these were like, they're very, they're of the monuments. So they're kind of, they're mowed lawns and it's pretty clean and pristine. And said, this is the DC we want to get back to. The 1940s? Oh, okay. Pre-Civil Rights Act. Okay, you want to get back to that because once again, and I've talked about this before, I went on a historic walking tour in South Carolina one time, and the tour guide actually made this statement. She goes, and I'm paraphrasing it a little bit. She goes, the 1950s, it was an easier, more peaceful time. And you just hear me in the background. Well, unless you're black, I mean, it wasn't great for them. It's this kind of white version world where, golly gosh, we didn't have to worry about those people. They knew where to stand in their lives. That's kind of the thing. And so there's an element that Trump, and now, by the way, I think this is all of this personally, but definitely there's this idea of the more racist white version of America needs to be achieved at the expense of, I guess, shooting 15-year-old black kids in the face in Washington, D.C. Jeanine Pirro just seems to be intent on doing that. I don't quite know. There's someone mentioned to me that there's also, okay, so there's definitely an element of this, which is clearly to get the Ghislaine Maxwell story off the front page, the Epstein story, the Epstein file. They're trying desperately to get this off the front page. And someone actually said maybe the reason why they're trying as hard as they can to go after like 14 and 15-year-olds is because if Trump has actually been, they got records of him having sex with 14-year-olds, then basically this whole thing was, well, 14-year-old's really an adult. And so they're going to try to retroactively make what he did, raping children, legal by this. We don't know. It should be known that Ghislaine Maxwell is now able to go on work release to where she's able to work outside of the prison. This is a woman who trafficked numerous children. Sexually, it was part of the sexual assault of numerous young girls. And we are not asking the question of how in the hell, who signed off on this movement from her from the prison in Florida to this country club prison to where now she's outside. And yeah, I mean, clearly there's an element of this to try to shut her up and basically prevent her from blabbing on Trump being the pedophile in chief. So, no, without a doubt. I think that there's definitely a racist tone to this whole thing in DC. There's definitely don't look at the Epstein files. Look at me basically becoming a dictator in front of your eyes right now. There's that too. But there also is something else, and I mentioned this yesterday, is that Donald Trump is terrified of being impeached. He knows, they already know that if there's a legit election, the Republicans are about to get tossed out of office across the country. And so now they're doing everything in their power to basically look at next year's election and say, how do we stop this from happening? The thing in Texas, that's part of it. Any place they can gerrymander and to try to get 2 or 3 more Republican seats to try to offset this. I don't know if that's going to help, because I think this is going to be an overwhelming butt kicking by the Democrats over the Republicans. But if that election does happen. But you see, what I just said there is, I don't even think that the gerrymander is going to help them that much, because I think any Republican seat that's +7 or 8 is probably going to go to the Democrats, because things are going to be so bad. They already are pretty atrocious. I'll get more to that in a second. So there's going to be this element of they need to throw out the vote counts in all the major metro areas, and then basically go with only the 40% of rural white America, their vote counts, no other vote counts. We're going to install a bunch of people, and that's it. Well, this whole thing in DC is a test run. Internal documents obtained by the Washington Post reported on Tuesday reveal a secret Pentagon plan by the Trump administration to create a standing force of military personnel that could rapidly deploy to the U.S. cities or communities to quell public protests or any situation Trump deems domestic civil unrest. The proposal to create what dubs a domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force, which evidence has shown has been under serious consideration by the administration for recent months, would utilize existing statutes, including invoking Title 32 to reauthorize the deployment of Special and National Guard units anywhere in the country within hours. 600 troops to be on standby at all time, broken into 2 groups of 300, one based in Arizona, one based in Alabama, to basically go on either side of the Mississippi River. This is not normal, declared one social media normal. Yes, of course it's not normal. But that's what's coming. That election in 2026, it's not going to happen. They're going to stop it any way they can. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Hi, Penny here from Nightingale in Minneapolis. Exciting news. During the warmer months, we're extending our charm to the patio. Imagine savoring your favorite dishes outside, surrounded by the lively energy of South Minneapolis near 26th and Lindale. And guess what? Nightingale's patio is not just a dining space. It's also dog-friendly. Craft cocktails, curated wines, and half-price bottles of wine on Mondays are still part of the deal. Open daily 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. with a full menu until midnight. Join us at Nightingale, where good times and great flavors come together.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com.
Overwhelmed trying to make sense of Medicare? As a licensed advisor, I can help you determine your healthcare needs and evaluate your options. I'm Harvey Pearl of Pearl & Company, and I want you to have the peace of mind knowing you have the best coverage available. You deserve an advocate you can trust and coverage you can rely on. And there's no fee, ever. Annual enrollment is October 15th through December 7th. Call me now at 651-303-8889 so we can strategize together.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. Did you know that August is Pet Appreciation Month? Zero Res doesn't use harsh soaps or chemicals, so it's safe for all your furry friends. If you have a pet like I do, you know they'd like to leave little bits of themselves around the house, whether that's fur or dander or worse, and you need to call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to help get your house back in shape. Carpets, tile, rugs, upholstery, hardwood, every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. So if it's been months since your last deep clean, it's time to give the pros at Zero Res a call. Right now, you can get your entire home Zero Resified from Minnesota's ultimate carpet cleaner. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $124. Take 15% off pet odor treatments and $50 off an air duct cleaning when you book with Zero Res today. Call 952-ZERO-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com and ask for the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. They're prepping for it. And the one thing I'm wondering how they're going to do, and don't get me wrong, I think that Supreme Court will back up Trump no matter what, is how do they come in? I'll just use Minnesota as an example. You have you're going to have a U.S. Senate race. You're going to have a governor's race and all the state offices. Plus, you're going to have the U.S. House races. Now, they got 4 Republicans currently in those 8 seats in Minnesota. So they've got to basically say, well, those elections were fair and square. You can't question them. But yet you're going to have to do something to negate the votes in the 4 Democratic districts, as well as also the statewide results to hand it to the Republicans. And about the only way I think they can do that is if they somehow come in and they say, just for the state, and once again, for the argument of Minnesota, the Twin Cities, Duluth, Rochester, St. Cloud, Moorhead, Mankato, your vote totals don't count because reasons, but everyone else does count. And we're just going to award Republicans the victories in all those seats, and that's how they're going to do it. And they'll do that across the country. I mean, that's, in Illinois, they'd have to get rid of a lot. I mean, not just Chicago, but a lot of the other larger towns too. Bloomington and Rockford, they'd have to get rid of all of them. East St. Louis, they'd have to get rid of that vote count. I mean, they'd have to get rid of all those to basically have a 10th of the state population decide who all the elected officials are. So yeah, that's, and without a doubt in my mind, there isn't a single damn Republican out there that would say, well, maybe this just throwing out 80% of the vote totals to basically install a bunch of Republicans is not the best idea. No, they're going to go with it. And they're going to say, there were some legitimate reasons why we did this. In this, just once again, cavalcade of disaster stuff that's going on. In the last week, this has gotten to be dark in this country. Now they've released data. I mean, you're a fool if you believe that the inflation data they released. There clearly is a lot of people that are far smarter at this inflation data that are saying, boy, this should have been higher. And even though they're all claiming the inflation data wasn't bad, there still is a lot of bad in this inflation data. It seems like it's been cherry-picked. U.S. inflation held steady in July despite import tariffs, bolstering Fed's bets that the Federal Reserve may cut interest rates. Latest official figures show that consumer prices rose 2.7%. I'm going to guess that that's actually a full point lower than it actually is. That I'm going to guess it was actually closer to 3.7% because those tariffs are kicking in. Just go to a freaking store, man. Basically, analysis of the relatively contained pace of prices rises could bolster the case for the U.S. Central Bank to lower the interest rates, borrowing costs to support the economy. Underlying inflation measure, which seen as better indicator of economic trends, showed prices rising the fastest pace since February. I think that was also cut back. Like I said, the people that really do understand the inflation markets are all kind of looking at this and saying, okay, there's no there. The so-called core inflation, which strips out food and energy costs, rose by 3.1%, which is the fastest pace in 6 months. Once again, I think that's a full point less than it really is. They're just making up these numbers at this point. And they're hoping that when they eventually release the true numbers, where they have to do the adjustment and say, oh, by the way, inflation back in July wasn't 2.7%. It actually was 4.2%. Oopsies. They're hoping that the consequences won't be that bad. Trump is now, and like I said, this is all the fixes in because the fake numbers come on out. And then Trump on Tuesday threatened to allow a major lawsuit against Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to proceed, escalating this pressure on the central bank leader to cut interest rates. Trump said on Truth Social post that the suit would relate to Powell's management of pricey renovations at the Fed headquarters. Then he said, I'm going to sue him. And then he said, Jerome, too late, Powell must now lower the rate. And once again, he's going to lower the rate. Yes, the economy is going to probably go crazy for about 2 weeks. And then you don't have too many places you can go if the economy really starts to have a bad time. Steve Mnuchin really gave me a beauty when he pushed this loser, referring to his first-term Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, having encouraged him to nominate Powell. The damage has been done by always being too late is incalculable. No, it's just he's basically trying to rig the system to try to make himself look as good as possible. It's comical. Here is the president of the United States literally threatening to sue the Fed chairman if he doesn't lower interest rates, even if the Fed chairman and the rest of the Fed board say, you know what, we probably shouldn't do so at this point. But now we also find out the other shoe has dropped. In case you didn't miss it, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that evil little organization that published the truth and said that Trump's economy is really starting to slow down. They replaced the chairperson of that, and when they got a new one, the nominee to head the Bureau of Labor Statistics suggested getting rid of the agency's closely watched monthly job estimates after the most recent estimate angered the president. In an interview with Fox News conducted last week and published Tuesday, Heritage Foundation chief economist E.J. Antoni, that's right, Heritage Foundation, yeah, the Klan in suits, claimed the numbers are unreliable. Until it is corrected, the BLS should suspend issuing the monthly job reports, but keep publishing the more accurate, though less timely, quarterly data. Antoni said major decisions makers from Wall Street to D.C. rely on those numbers, and the lack of confidence in the data has far-reaching consequences. No, we don't have a lack of confidence in the data. We know the data is legit. You guys just don't like the fact that the data is showing the truth. Which, by the way, and I want to make sure I fall back to this, and I've said this, I want everyone to be very careful come October. Because if you think about this, that's when all of a sudden they're not going to be able to hide this anymore. That you're not going to be, clearly the prices are going up. And next hour, I'm going to talk a little bit about the ag sector, and particularly soybeans, which, frankly, China could actually break this country over its knee if it wanted to, alone with just the soybean markets. I'll get to that a little bit later on. But everything seems to be pointing that in October, things are going to crash and crash. They're not going to go down. They're going to crash mightily. And a huge part of this problem is if they lower the interest rate and then in turn, so they don't have much more wiggle room there to kind of control inflation. And then in turn, all these numbers reports and these inflation reports. Oh, by the way, you remember those reports from the summer that weren't that bad? They were actually far worse. But I'm going to blame Jerome Powell, that sort of thing. I think October, it is going to be a very dark and cold Christmas this year. I really do. I really do honestly think that. I'll tell you what, let's take a break. Come on back. Bill Corbett from RiffTrax is going to join us. We'll talk some politics, but we'll also talk about their brand new live show coming up here on Thursday. It is the Matt McNeil Show.
I am made from the dust of the stars. Join me, Tom Hartman, where smart people get their news. The Tom Hartman Program on AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
The Brave New Workshop is a Minneapolis tradition and the nation's longest-running comedy theater, finding ways to make people laugh about things that should make them cry for over 65 years. And who doesn't need a good laugh right now? Seriously, who doesn't need a laugh? Come see their fall show, Hippocalypse Now, a hilarious look at a world where what people say and what people do are completely unrelated. Playing now through November 1st at the Dudley Riggs Theater in Minneapolis. Tickets available at hennepinarts.org. That's hennepinarts.org.
Summer is going fast, but Next Chapter Booksellers has everything you need to keep up with your summer reading. From the hottest new titles to timeless classics, Next Chapter Booksellers has something for any taste. Their friendly staff are great at making recommendations for the perfect summer read for you or your loved ones. Plus, Next Chapter Booksellers has a wide variety of puzzles and games for those rainy days. So keep up with your summer reading at Next Chapter Booksellers off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Greg Bakken here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food, standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about outdoor fires. Sitting around a fire is the oldest, most basic form of human activity.
What's new is in the way fire is burned. We can show you how to burn cleaner with a lot less smoke.
The radiant heat and light from an open fire is unmatched. It kindles our spirits and connects us to the outdoors. And now it's easier to experience and enjoy.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs wood and gas burning fire pits and fireplaces. Let us help you experience an outdoor fire without all the smoke.
Come see the many ways you can enjoy a fire outdoors.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. An air quality alert is in effect. Sunshine today with a high of 81, then tonight clear with a low of 61. If it's been months since your last deep clean at home, give the cleaning pros at Zero Res a call today. Get 3 rooms of carpet starting at just $124. 952-ZERO-RES or ZeroResMinnesota.com. Ask for the AM 950 special. ATNF AM 950, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Broadcasting in Chicago on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, in Seattle 1150 AM KKNW, in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It is the Matt McNeil Show. Bill Corbett is kind enough to return to our airwaves. Of course, the one of the 3 voices of Riff Tracks, as well as also you can find him on T3K. Big fan of him. He loves to come talk, and he also loves to do these live shows that Riff Tracks does. And they are doing a Butte. Oh, this one, I remember when this came out. Riff Tracks is live, is going to be taking care of Time Cop, the Jean-Claude Van Damme brilliant thing. And Mia Sara in that. I loved Mia Sara from Fairy.
No, she's cute as the button. Hard not to love her.
This is going to be actually on Thursday, August 14th, correct?
Yeah, it's otherwise known as 2 days from now, and then it's going to be rebroadcast Tuesday, so that we call it an encore, but it's rebroadcast.
Fathom Entertainment has this. I'll put a link out on the social media pages a little bit later on for everyone to go get tickets. We'll talk about that coming up here, but you know, as a man, you are, first of all, you're a very intelligent, very smart man. You can't do comedy like you do and not be wickedly smart. You are.
Well,
and,
yeah.
Well, I know you're not going to say it, but
I'll take the win. I'll take the win there and just let.
Well, when I was at your comedy night a few months back, I mean, that's what the deal is. I mean, you guys are just smart, and you have to be able to to find the kind of the comedy and all this stuff that's out there and be able to see, kind of get through it. And I think you guys do a very good job. You have been doing the type of comedy you've been doing, riffing, for many years. And how many movies over the time have you looked at a dystopian future narrative that you've been able to joke and laugh about, and yet now here we kind of are, man.
Honestly, Matt, sometimes I go like, well, that dystopian future wasn't too bad compared to this. It's just like, they were at least a little more interesting and had, like the comic book villains, or at least were a little bit smart and maybe had some good intentions at the core of them, however warped they got. But all we have are just lying thugs, lying, stupid thugs. And that's kind of not the dystopia of my dreams, I must say.
Well, it is. Yesterday, I was talking in the second hour a little bit about, and this is just a little goofy thing. There's a wall underneath the waterfall on the Mississippi River.
Oh yeah, I read about that. Yeah,
yeah. It's basically 150 years old, and no one's gone to see how it's doing. And if this wall collapses, that basically the entire waterfall in downtown Minneapolis will fall apart, and you're going to have a huge environmental disaster plus a human disaster, because you won't be able to get water out of the river or anything for the 4 cities, including Minneapolis, that need the water out of the Mississippi River.
Yep.
It brought up the point that we just don't realize how fragile our world really is. We like to go through it and say to ourselves, oh, this is really safe and all this stuff. But it's little things like that. Oh, there's a wall that's 150 years old that if crumbles, we're going to lose the city of Minneapolis. That's not good. We're seeing this kind of play out in with our government. Is we like to think that this government was safe, but when you have Republicans basically completely surrendering to Trump, this was the system that no one anticipated, that there would be no checks and balances whatsoever. And here we are on the verge of losing democracy itself, because I just do not think we're going to have an election in 2026.
Well, Matt, maybe you forget about the parliamentarian. That all-powerful being who can just turn this all around. No, I think you make a good point, because like there are a lot of things that we are either spared the details of or just too busy to get. And for many years in communities all across the country and around the world, there have been dedicated civil servants who have been happy to make it their job to maintain and build and keep things going. And when you have this like griftopia where anything that exists has to be sort of like monetized and grabbed and put in, Trump and company's pockets, like things are just going to break and they're not going to be replaced. We already see it in healthcare with Bobby Kennedy Jr. up there, just destroying work that has kept people healthy for years.
You talk about bad villains in movies. Has anyone been written as so cliche as Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or as I call him, Brainworm McGee?
I mean, he's none of these. All these people are the worst. Somehow, mathematically, every single one of them is the worst person in the world. It just works out that way. Trust my math. But they are also not all that interesting in an objective way. They're just goons. And Kennedy is his own kind. Like he just thinks I don't know. He is a eugenicist, no doubt about that. People who use that word, but also like a fail son. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. Like a kid who grew up with a lot of privilege and thought he was the smartest guy in the world. I have something I have not told you. I knew Bobby Kennedy Jr. briefly when I was a messenger in a New York law firm growing up. He was a summer associate there, and I think he was like on his 3rd time around at the bar. Like he was not a bright guy. And even then, 16-year-old me, I would talk to him for like a minute delivering stuff. And I thought, this guy's dumb or off. He's off. And it certainly hasn't gotten any better.
Oh, he just seems to be tripling down on that stuff. We can look at Janine Pirro. who is now the commandant of it's just, she's out in the press conference like, we need to shoot 14-year-olds in the face.
I know.
Like, this is some sort of viable, this is your biggest problem, is you can't shoot 14-year-olds in the face. There is, as you say, every one of them is the worst person. It is literally true. You just kind of look and it's like, and now there's this person.
Yeah.
And now there's this person.
It really is like the cast of, I don't know, I would say the Addams Family, but the Addams Family were charming and funny. You know what I mean? Though it's like, oh my God, they're actually they're actually taking Jeannie Pirro out of her, her bar stool and putting her, giving her a staff job. It's just like every time it's the worst person, and you go, oh my God, they're actually going for this.
Well, it is, I kind of, jokingly said Walking Dead, but it is true. They take every bad, still alive human from that show,
right?
And now we're going to put you in charge of transportation. Right. And you're like, really? You mean the guy that was, murdering his own followers? Yeah, now he's running the airports. Okay, sure, why not?
Yeah,
It really is just. You and I, we're about the same age, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I never in a million years thought I would be here for the front row seat of the end of this country, but it feels like we're closer to the end of this country than it ever feels like we're actually going to be able to come out of this mess.
It's hard not to agree with that. And I think whatever happens, like say the best thing happens and we do get out of this and become a somewhat decent country, I think it's only going to be the product of such enormous change. And it's going to have to ripple through all kinds of systems, including how we do electoral politics, some structural things. Supreme Court obviously needs big looking at, and, so you don't get stuck with lifetime hacks. I don't know. And you and I could talk about a whole bunch of other things that just feel like, okay, this is not viable anymore. And even looking at the big things like the Electoral College, why do we always have to win plus 20 to defeat the Republicans? Is kind of what it feels like.
Well, and they have an easy path that's been decided, and I don't quite get it either. But I will say that what the hard part is the amount. I mean, it still is. I think there are some Democrats out there, and J.B. Pritzker over in Illinois is doing, I think, a great job. Newsom finally freaking woke up out there. It's nice to see him out in California. We got Walls here in Minnesota. There are some, Jasmine Crockett's doing a fantastic job. Bernie's out there still fighting the good fight. There are still a lot of good Democrats are out there, but there still is all this, as you and I talk about this, and there clearly are some problems here that weren't anticipating by whether the founding fathers or history, that you can't have one political party just give up and hand the executive branch all the power like they've created here.
Yeah.
If we do get to that point, I already can tell you there's half the damn Democrats are going to be sitting there. It's like, well, now that we're in power, we shouldn't try to overreach and we should try to work with the other side. And you're just like, for goodness sakes, you don't understand how dangerous this is. I mean,
I know.
John Oliver, last week tonight, was talking about Schumer, and he says, I've sent Donald Trump a very strongly worded letter. And you're like, really? This is your idea of resistance at this point? My God.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to tell whether these people are just too comfortable. I mean, I think they are, but whether they're, yes. Wouldn't go so far as to say that all of them are complicit 100%, like the most paranoid among us say. But they're certainly comfortable and lazy at the very least.
Yes.
As long as it is not affecting them. And this is something I noticed the other day, Matt. It was somebody on Blue Sky was talking about this. It's like, we are always approaching a constitutional crisis. We are getting to a point where it's never like, and this is the media too, a big problem with the media, but our side has adopted it too. It's like, we're getting to the point where we're having a constitutional crisis. It's like, we've been in that for so long. We're here and past that. It's not just, a thing that might happen.
I'm going to do it for you in a movie term that I think will size this up perfectly. You've seen this. Was it Conan the Destroyer was the second Conan movie, right? With Arnold?
Yes.
Do you remember after he kills the great lizard creature, that little thief comes up and stabs it and says, took care of that? That's like half the freaking Democratic Party right now. They're just sitting on the sideline and letting other people do all the heavy lifting. But then if they do succeed, look at me, I've been here the entire time. And you're like, oh, come on, man.
I dread, even if things get better here, to hear like, we don't want to look backwards. It's like, oh my God.
Yes.
All right.
Stop taking the Republican talking points and running with them as your mantra, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Is there a country? This is kind of one of those things. I am American. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I like being here. I want to stay here, but I would be remiss. I've got friends in Ireland who have constantly said, "Get over here if you need to get over here. You can stay here."
Yeah.
Have you had any of your foreign friends say, get to Canada, get to Europe, anything like that?
I have heard that. I've even because I have a trans kid, and we think hard about well, if it really, really goes south, do we go to Canada? And I don't really know what to do there. It is very hard to do that. I could qualify for citizenship in Ireland because of my grandfather was from there. But I don't want to. I don't want to leave this country. I did spend like half of a college semester over there once and had a great time, but I was kind of missing home by the end. And so I'm not willing to give up yet. And I think we can't.
I don't think we can either, but at the same time, it's the way this is going and the way this is going so quickly. I mean, it's August. He has been in office for basically 7 months. And 7.5 months, and this is where we're at right now. We've got troops on the street of a city, and it is really kind of scary to think about if the Republican Party still just does not do anything to get in his way. Where are we going to be by Christmas? Where will we be by February or March? Will we be at the point? I mean, now they've got the case in front of the Supreme Court on gay marriage now that they're going to try to overturn that. It is somewhat terrifying to me to think about where we're at and how quickly this has gone. But at the same time, it's kind of a wake-up call that you need to appreciate what we've got while we've got it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And it's time for very clear values about this stuff and very blunt language. And I think that is where maybe one thing you can take from Trump, I hate him in every possible way there is to hate him. But you have to meet, like I noticed the other day, Pritzker was saying he's a cheater. He's always been a cheater. He cheats at this, and this. Why wouldn't he cheat? So that was music to my ears. Just get it out there in a blunt, digestible way.
Oh, yeah. And if you're not watching what the press office over in California for the governor is doing, there are some brilliant press releases coming out in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, that's really lit a fire under that guy who was just had a crappy podcast interviewing Steve Bannon for a couple of months ago. And it just was like a dash of cold water on his face.
We're going to come on back. We are going to be funny because we're going to talk about the Rip Tracks Live coming up on Thursday. Bill Corbett joining us. It is the Matt McNeil Show.
Hey, it's Mitch, owner of Junk Masters, your local independently owned junk removal team. We are not a franchise, and that means personalized service you can count on. Spring's a season for cleaning out the things you're ready to let go of. Whether it's one item or a full property cleanout, we handle it all, residential or commercial. You just show us what goes. With same-day service, upfront, no obligation pricing, and a landfill diversion program that prioritizes donating, recycling, and reuse. Visit junkmastersmn.com to learn more.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. Over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
Discover a world of foods. Visit Shanghai International Wholesale Market, a spacious food warehouse open to the public with discounts for buying in bulk. Incredible selection of global and local foods, 500 different types of noodles, specialty items, and local foods you won't find anywhere else. Shanghai Wholesale Market, your local international food warehouse. Shanghai is just north of University Avenue off of Pryor.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our local small businesses. Do you want more leads, more store traffic, more customers? Thousands of local businesses, just like yours, count on Minuteman Uptown to drive sales. We make your business stand out and show out. We print everything from signage, promotions, and direct marketing. We connect you to the community. Choose Minuteman Uptown because we share your values, and we are a proud union shop. Contact us today at mpuptown.com.
The place for live music is the Park Tavern. Live music takes over the Park Tavern's dog-friendly patio. Head over on Tuesday, August 12th, it's Colby Straka. Wednesday, August 13th, it's Bryce Heggie. And on Thursday, August 14th, it's American Bootleg. Music runs from 5:30 to 8 p.m. and reservations for groups of 8 or more are recommended. And the Park Tavern offers private and semi-private spaces for small and large groups with no room fees and no minimum spending requirements. On Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park, outdoor live music is on at the Park Tavern.
This is Alex Knorr from Buzzcut Mowing, a young, hardworking entrepreneur serving the Southwest Metro with affordable lawn care. I take the hard work off your plate with weekly mowing. I also offer leaf cleanups, aeration, dethatching, tree trimming, and mulch installation. I'll keep your lawn beautiful so you can enjoy your weekends with the people who matter most. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com. That's buzzcutmowingmn.com.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Bill Corbett from Riff Tracks, kind enough to join us. Riff Tracks Live coming up on Thursday. By the way, I also want to make sure I mention, if you want to follow him on social media, he's scorching over on Blue Sky. BillCorbett.bsky.social. 73,000 followers. Dang, man, you're doing well over there.
Is so, yeah. I don't know how many are bots or,
not as friends. Not like Twitter, man. No, there's a lot of people there, and they all kind of like to talk to me.
Yeah.
I try to get through all the comments. I really try. So I'm working on it at this point.
Oh, wow.
If you, as we can tell by the state of the nation that we're in right now, who doesn't need a laugh? And I've got a butte for you. Riff Tracks Live. If you've not seen any of these shows, they are brilliant. They are doing it live on August 14th on Thursday night. Thanks to the guys at Fathom who are taking care of this. Are you in Nashville or here in this Twin Cities?
Well, this is a little bit of a hat trick here. We are not going to be live. We actually recorded this in June. It's the longest gap between recording and presenting it. We've done a week before. And we just decided to try it this way this time so that we could record it at a good time of year for Fathom and then have it in the can and clean it up technically, because we kind of found that people don't really care if it's live anymore. And that was always a bit of a nerve-wracking thing for us anyway. And not so much stage fright as what technically could really screw up here. And so that being eliminated is kind of nice. We know that it's gonna work and it's out there and it's out of our trembling hands.
There's a reason I like not doing the State Fair live show anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it right there.
Yeah.
Time Cop. I remember when what distant year in the future does Jean-Claude Van Damme head into?
The very distant year of 2004, Matt.
Okay. And
it was made in 1994. So they imagined 10 years from then they would not only have time travel, but there is a car in it. There's a default car. There's self-driving cars and they look uncannily like a Cybertruck, in my opinion.
Really?
A little more tricked out, a little, but yeah, it's the dumb future from the dumb guy is in the dumb movie.
So for anyone that hasn't experienced this, this was actually, if I remember correctly, somewhat of a successful film for him.
I think it was his most successful.
Yeah. What is the story here about going 10 years into the future at this point?
Yeah, basically it's a political thriller in disguise. Apropos of the subject of this show, it is. I don't know if you remember Ron Silver, the actor.
Yeah,
he was on The West Wing for a while. He plays. I don't think it's any surprise. You kind of know it within a minute of seeing him. And he plays the bad guy. And he's a young senator when we meet him, and he's 10 years older, and they treat that like a big deal. It's like, buddy, until you're 90, you're not a U.S. senator. I mean, but he has a plan to he hears about this new time travel technology to sort of like become president and basically take over the USA. So, and the weird thing is there's a couple of really good scenes, but very, I don't know whether they just ran out of money, but there's kind of like a really good scene that's set right post Civil War at the very beginning. And then there's one that takes place in the 1920s at the stock market crash. And that's it. That's as much as you time travel outside of like from one mall to another 10 years later.
What did they do? The caramel corns moved. Okay, well, that's like breaking the paradigm. As far as, did Van Damme actually do? I mean, he's not a good actor. I mean, I don't think I'm breaking any news here. He's not a good actor. Was there any redeeming quality? Did the director get anything out of him outside of those weird looks and, splits?
Well, he is genuinely impressive what he can do. I mean, the splits, he seems a little obsessed with showing us that he can do that. There's like a couple of notable scenes, one in his like tighty whitey underpants where he jumps up on the counter and he's in a perfect plane with his legs. And it's like, good for you, man. I would be in the hospital immediately if I tried that. But he is, and his kicking, his fight stuff is great, but it's, obviously not enough. But he's married to Mia Sarah, who is adorable.
Oh,
and you start to wonder, like, how did you guys meet? And why does he have just like an American name, instead of a Belgian name?
Well, I mean, I'm no combat expert, but if I've basically taken the most tender part of my body and exposed it to the max I could by putting a leg on either counter, I don't think that's going to end too well for me.
It seems like a clever animal trick rather than self-defense. He always finds ways to need to do that, but does not seem effective in the long run.
Yeah, it's like the TV show where it's the hockey goalie who solves crime, and of course every episode the very last thing is he's stopping a puck before it gets into the goal. It's like, okay,
or the equivalent of it, like an ashtray.
It is contrived. You and I need to write that show. That's the show you and I need to write. Bill Corbett, of course, Riff Tracks, and you've got your usual gang of fools as the whole crew, correct?
Absolutely. And our pal Frank Conniff just moved back to Minneapolis.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really nice.
All right. Mike Nelson, Kevin Murphy, and of course Bill Corbett, Riff Tracks Live. Tickets available. This is Time Cop. It's for Thursday night. Go to the Fathom. Once again, I'm going to put the link out a little bit later on. This is playing at a lot of cinemas, which is really cool. I'm so happy for you on that.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
You can find one probably Chicago and Minneapolis, St. Paul, Seattle. You'll probably be able to find one somewhat nearby you. Go check it out. I got the link on all my socials. Find it there. Bill, congratulations on this. As always, all my best on this. And thanks, man. I got to tell you, it's really nice to be able to talk to a friendly face every once in a while.
Same back to you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Well, maybe we'll be talking next time in Ireland.
Yeah. Begorra.
Hopefully, pub talk. Bill Corbett got enough to join us once again. Riff Tracks Live. It is going to be on Thursday night. Like I said, find the link and find your location where you can go see that and enjoy that. Thank you very much to Bill. We'll take a break. Chicago and Seattle, thank you very much. We will talk to you on a Wednesday. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2. That is coming up next.
Hey, it's Tom. There's a war being waged on clean energy. A bill in Congress could eliminate the 30% federal tax credit for solar by the end of 2025. And once it's gone, it may never come back. Fossil fuel giants and their MAGA friends in Washington want to kill green energy. But you can fight back. Going solar with All Energy Solar isn't just smart, it's a form of resistance. You choose where your money goes, not to utility companies, not to fossil fuel billionaires, but toward clean, renewable power for your home. A system from All Energy Solar works in Minnesota year-round because it runs on sunlight, not heat. So even in the dead of winter, you're generating electricity. And All Energy Solar helps you save with every rebate and incentive available. This is the moment to act. Waiting means risking with this tax credit and giving the upper hand to MAGA Republicans. So get your free consultation today at allenergysolar.com and take back your power.
Come on, you know it's true. Work is almost bearable when the Stephanie Miller Show is on. AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The Trump administration has released human rights reports that eliminate mentions of discrimination faced by LGBTQ plus people, scale back focus on reproductive rights, and criticize some European allies for restricting political speech at what American officials believe is aimed at right-wing politicians. Here's State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce at a news conference.
The restructuring doesn't reflect a change of any U.S. policy when it comes to human rights. It certainly promotes, as does our work, respect for human rights around the globe. It does not reflect on any particular country. We've stopped ranking countries, by the way. People can make their own decisions about what nations are doing.
The reports cover 2024 before President Trump took office and also note the dire human rights conditions in countries that have agreed to accept migrants deported from the U.S. under Trump's immigration crackdown. Some of the 800 National Guard members deployed by the Trump administration have arrived in D.C. Their arrival followed the president's announcement that he would activate the Guard and take control of the district's police department to reduce crime. At a news conference, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says there were more than 24 arrests last night as federal forces moved around Washington, D.C.
A total of 6 illegal handguns were seized off of District of Columbia streets as part of last night's effort. This is only the beginning. Over the course of the next month, the Trump administration will relentlessly pursue and arrest every violent criminal in the district who breaks the law, undermines public safety, and endangers law-abiding Americans.
The president cited a crime emergency, but referred to the same crime that city officials stress is already falling noticeably. This is AP News.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money, because you're in charge. And right now, you're going to pay for groceries. But you decide what groceries. Just keep in mind you're running out of dishwashing soap. But you decide if you're going to buy that soap. Just those dishes won't clean themselves, will they? Remember, with Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
If you didn't think skipping breakfast was a big deal, you'd be right before. But now, Wendy's has Buck Biscuits. We're talking sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, or even the Honey Buddy Chicken Biscuit for just $1 each. Seriously, you can get all 3 if you want. They're just $1, so you'll never skip breakfast again. If you're smart. Breakfast for $1? Gotta be Wendy's.
Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Limit 5 qualifying items per transaction. Not valid.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh, every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Overwhelmed trying to make sense of Medicare? As a licensed advisor, I can help you determine your healthcare needs and evaluate your options. I'm Harvey Pearl of Pearl & Company, and I want you to have the peace of mind knowing you have the best coverage available. You deserve an advocate you can trust and coverage you can rely on. And there's no fee, ever. Annual enrollment is October 15th through December 7th. Find me at pearlsofwisdom.com. That's PERLES of wisdom.com. So we can strategize together.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. An air quality alert is in effect. Sunshine today with a high of 81, then tonight clear with a low of 61. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show here on your Tuesday. Matt and Brett, Patrick and Brett, and joining us in studio right now. Hello, Brett. How are we?
Hello.
I don't know. We got to get your mic up there. We got his mic?
There we go. Now I think I'm on.
Not really.
I can just yell really loud.
Well, see if that mic is
that one's going here.
Hey, it's this one over here that's working. There you go. There we go.
Mic issues can happen. There we go.
Spin it around. Act like you've been in radio for once.
Oh yeah, there we go.
There it is.
I've been in radio before. Not my first day, I guess, unless for today.
Do you know how many times I have been at a radio station? I started my first radio gig in this was in Beloit, Wisconsin. I had a cart deck and so for everyone out there, these were cart decks were basically 8-track tapes. So like 8-track tapes from the 1970s, that was what carts were. They'd have a tone on them and you could start them and play them. I came into the station one time. Apparently lightning had hit the station and knocked out everything but one cart deck and one CD player. And so I had to do a radio show where literally I'd have to stop a cart, put a new cart in, start the next ad, take that cart out, had to queue up everything during the one song. And I was saying, okay, this is an oldie station. So, I mean, I played American Pie. I played, I think, Admiral Halsey from Paul McCartney. That was a good one. That was nice and long. You know, anything that had any length at all, I was playing that song today. Because that is, for me, that was radio when I was growing up. It's going in this business. It was, don't ever expect anything to ever work at any given point.
Yeah.
But yet you got to put on a show. There you go.
So are you kind of tap dancing between songs saying, hey, we got this coming up as you're frantically trying to switch CDs?
I sounded like the teenager from The Simpsons. This is really great radio. Hey, great to have you with me today. You know, it was trial by fire, you know. And now here's a live read for Grant's Greenhouse and Greenery where they've got great deals. Oh gosh, this is a hard ad. It's like that sort of thing.
Well, I commend you for that. I found it a challenge back at Brown when we would have to switch between 3 CDs, and I would have trouble with that. Yeah. So imagine.
3?
Yeah.
Dear Lord, man, I was on turntables, 45s that skipped like a little girl in the French Alps. You know, come on, man. No, that was radio. It was always
my 3 CDs were tough to work.
3 CDs. Wow. Did you ever work music radio?
I sort of. My first Iowa radio job was at a full service station, so it was a combo of news and talk, as many small town radio stations are.
Did you host like a polka hour or something like that?
I did do Monday polkas.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't mind doing. We could check this show out on a Friday. We just do all polkas all day. I think that'd be a hoot, man.
And the one thing with that polka show, if you did not play the chicken dance, the local nursing home would call up and start yelling at us because that's what got all the residents up and moving.
Oh, that's nice to know. It's like, out of the wheelchair, Elma. It's time for you to do the chicken dance. I don't wanna. There you go. It's Salisbury steak night. Come on, let's get moving. Oh, small town radio, man.
Yeah.
It's
an experience, that's for sure.
It is. I should mention today, there is some voting going on right now. 3 candidates are facing off Tuesday for the DFL primary that will decide to fill the legislative seat previously held by the DFL House Speaker Melissa Hortman. The winner of Tuesday's DFL primary in House District 34B, which covers much of Brooklyn Park and parts of Coon Rapids and Champlain, will face real estate agent Ruth Bittner in September. No other Republicans registered to run for the seat, so they didn't have a Republican primary. 3 DFL candidates, Brooklyn Park City Council member Christian Erickson, DFL endorsed. Is it XP Lee? It's XP.
It was pronounced XP is what Coolican and I pronounced it as.
XP Lee, a former member of the Brooklyn Park City Council, and Erickson Say, a prosecutor in Hennepin County. All 3 candidates have said they're running for Hortman's seat with heavy hearts. So understandably, polling places open until 8 o'clock tonight. Voters can locate their polling locations courtesy of the Secretary of State's webpage over there. Yeah. This is that is like the saddest election. I'm having a hard time with
It
that.
still seems surreal that we're even having an election for that seat since Melissa Hortman had that for so many years, close to 20 years, I believe.
I'm just like I said, it makes you it does make you feel numb, but it's kind of one of those things where sadly at times we do have to move on and we have to get down this process, and so we'll see what happens here. Tomorrow morning we'll obviously have the endorsed candidate, and we should know that. We'll probably know that if they close at 8 by 9:15. There's only is there any other primaries in the state right now?
No, the Republican.
There wasn't that Republican seat or did that seat get? Is that primary later? That the Republican senator that died, or the House member that died?
I think that primary
Anderson.
might be a little bit later.
Okay, Anderson.
I at least know in this Hortman seat that the Republicans don't have another candidate, so their person's going straight through to the general.
Because as I recall, I think the Mitchell and the Anderson.
That's right.
That'll be the same day.
That will be the same day. So, and then once again, a very sad story there. I mean, person passing away within the case of Anderson. So obviously they'll have to, and those are both Senate seats. We'll have that down the road here. The Twins. Did you see the story this morning about the attendance over at Target Field?
Not good, is it? I saw that too.
43% since 2010 this season, culminating in one of the worst at Target Field history. The Twins are on pace to sell 1.8 million tickets. Wow. Down from 1.95 million last year, averaging 24,094 fans per game. On Monday, this is April 14th, so early this season, the Twins drew the smallest crowd in Target Field history. Attendance was 10,240. It was the 7th home game in the season. The outgoing team president, Dave St. Peter, predicted that the team would level off at 2.7 million fans after Target Field's initial seasons. In January, he said the 2025 attendance for Target was 2 million. This is not rocket science. You're just not giving people a reason to get excited about this team.
And correct me if I'm wrong, back in the Twins' heyday of the late 80s, early 90s, weren't they getting 3 million people a season at the Metrodome, of all places?
Yeah, you couldn't. I remember, gosh, I can't remember what season it was. Was it 87? Was the first year they broke, was it 2 million or 3 million fans at watching the Twins? Now, granted, I mean, yes, you had Kirby Puckett and Herbeck and Brunansky and Gaetti and all those guys that were on those teams and Blyleven and Frank Viola. That was great fun. But right now you guys keep giving us rewarmed leftovers and then acting like how many years have we waited for Byron Buxton to become a superstar? He's on the injury list all the time. Royce White was Royce Lewis rather. No, not Royce White. Royce Lewis was supposed to be this next big, and he's been consistently injured. You get some excitement from these rookie guys. Keishel does okay and stuff, and Joe Ryan and some of the pitchers have been okay, but you go out there because nobody else wanted. Who was the guy that we just traded back to Houston?
Oh, Carlos Correa.
Yeah, no one else wanted him because he couldn't pass a physical, and so we act like, look, we brought back Carlos Correa for another season, and I'm like, okay, that's not exciting anybody.
Isn't it fitting, too? I think, Patrick, you brought up, isn't he hitting like 400 right now for Houston? The second he leaves the Twins, now all of a sudden he's just tearing it up.
Yep. That is true.
Well, and I think this is, I, to a point, don't think the Twins have ever recovered from the David Ortiz. Just letting him go to the Boston Red Sox for twigs and pebbles. And they've never really recovered from that. And so it's prevented them. You had Louis Arise on your team. You had Louis Arise. Apparently, the Marlins were willing to take either Buxton or Arise, and you gave them Arise because you're just so terrified of a player going to another team and having all of a sudden turning it on and becoming this great player, as opposed to fixing what's wrong with inside your own team, where you basically take good players and turn them into mediocre players. And that's kind of and it doesn't help. You've got an ownership that basically just wants to. They gave out, was it 40% of the team? They traded 40% of the team, not for any other reason but to jam a bunch of money into their pocket as they head out the door.
Yeah, got to get that franchise value high. So when you sell it, you make as much money as possible.
Well, no, that was basically. I think that was them just basically. I want another vacation home before we're done. And so how do we do this? Well, let's just trade away all of our players and get a few bags of pebbles and twigs, and that's what we got. And I'm just so this team has no one to blame but itself for when you moved into that stadium, and for like 10 years afterwards, you had a really good product. And now, don't give me the pandemic, don't give me this, because other teams are come back from that. Right now, no one cares about this team in this town because you guys don't care about this team in this town. And that's that.
It's tough too when every other Minnesota pro sports team is largely winning right now.
Yeah.
Wild, despite how mediocre they are, they made the playoffs. Timberwolves, obviously very good. Vikings look like they're going to have a good season. And our women's teams obviously speak for themselves with the women's hockey team and then the Lynx.
I will say this, and you can criticize me all day long. I think if this team of ragtags puts it together and actually makes a run at a playoff spot, I think the front office will sit players and basically toss it and say, no, we don't want to go into the playoffs. I honestly do. I don't think that they want anything to do with it. I think they want to just get away from this and try to beg somebody to buy this team from them in the offseason.
That would be interesting, kind of major league style if they were to do that, like that movie. The team trades all their players, and now we're going to make a playoff run.
Coming up a little bit later on this hour, Brave New Workshop has got Hypocalypse Now. Their opening night is on Friday at 7:30 p.m. over at the Brave New Workshop. I will have another pair of tickets to give away for that for Brave New Workshop coming up here. Once again, it's the opening night on the 15th at 7:30 p.m. Downtown on Hennepin Avenue. A beautiful location they got down there, and they are funny as all get to go. So Hypocalypse Now is the new show. Tickets available for that coming up a little bit later on this hour. You get to talk to Patrick Hooligan.
We do today, as we're talking about a lot of political speculation on his part, as he is taking a look at the Attorney General's race in Minnesota and why it's so significant that Republicans have not won that AG's office since before we even had a man on the moon. That's how long it's been since Republicans have held that AG office. So
really?
Yeah, we'll talk about that and who could be running for that office, including, of course, the current sitting U.S. attorney that there's some rumblings that he might be seeking that office, but Patrick, as we'll get into, kind of thinks that he's largely probably going to stay out of politics. We'll talk that. Also, he has an indication, does Patrick, that Governor Walz likely is seeking re-election, so we'll talk about that. Then, of course, cover the special election for Hortman's seat as well.
And I don't want to give away any of your gusto, but if Walz wins that, it sets him up to be one of the top candidates for the 2028 election.
No doubt.
If we even have them anymore. Fun times. All right, it is Patrick Hooligan from the Minnesota Reformer with Brett right here on AM 950.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Brett Johnson with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. And Patrick Hooligan has returned to the airwaves for our usual Tuesday interview. He, of course, is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer, where you can find their great reporting over at minnesotareformer.com for the best in Minnesota news and politics with all of the great writers they have over at the Reformer. As today our focus is going to be who's running for what in 2026, especially with these statewide offices. In two of the recent Minnesota Reformer newsletters, which you can get delivered to your inbox every morning, Patrick was speculating on who some of the candidates might be for the Republican field in terms of the Attorney General's race, plus has some thoughts on whether Governor Walz is going to be seeking a third term and perhaps some information that he indeed might be seeking that third term. Plus, we'll talk a little bit about the special election for Melissa Hortman's old seat, as there is a DFL primary that's taking place today. So lots of political topics to get to today. Hey, Patrick, thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Always a pleasure.
Well, let's start off talking about these statewide races, and one that really caught my eye from yesterday's Reformer newsletter, and that has to do with Republicans and the Attorney General's race, because I, like many other people who follow politics in Minnesota, know that Republicans have not won a statewide office in Minnesota in almost 20 years. But one thing I didn't know about that streak is that it's even longer when it comes to the Attorney General's office. In fact, our last Republican Attorney General was Douglas M. Head. I don't know if you remember that name. If not, don't blame you, because he last served before Americans had even stepped foot on the moon, just showing how long it's been since we've had a Republican Attorney General. But I'm curious, why do you think this is a big deal that the GOP, that they've never won this office in the past, well over 50 or 60 years? Because as you write about, the Attorney General's office is rather significant in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, just from the standpoint of developing a bench and the types of candidates who can later run for governor or U.S. senator, I think that one of the reasons that Republicans have struggled in the last 20 years to win any statewide race, but especially these top of the ticket races, because they don't have seasoned candidates in some of the lower ballot races, including attorney general. Now, as it happens, attorneys general in our recent history have not had that much luck in running for governor or senator. Skip Humphrey and more recently Lori Swanson and Mike Hatch before her. But I'm going to chalk that up to just kind of a weird coincidence. They've certainly been in the mix, and in other states, it's very common for attorneys general to rise to higher office. So I think that's one deficiency. The other one is just the fact that the office itself is incredibly important and influential, and although the Constitution doesn't have much to say about the attorney general, it gives the legislature the power to give the attorney general their various powers, and one that's particularly important. It says right there in the law that the AG can investigate violations of the law of this state respecting unfair, discriminatory, and other unlawful practices of business, commerce, or trade. So you can see how that would give the attorney general all kinds of power to enforce all of our business laws. And we're seeing that now with Attorney General Keith Ellison, who is currently engaged in a very high stakes lawsuit against Exxon, the Coke companies, and the American Petroleum Institute, alleging fraud with respect to the impact of fossil fuels on climate change. And the Attorney General is making this argument that they have essentially defrauded the people of Minnesota by lying about the impact of burning fossil fuels on climate change. It's a kind of tobacco case, and that's another example that was prosecuted. Minnesota won that lawsuit back in the 90s. So these are the kinds of cases that you can bring. You're also the state's chief legal officer. You're representing state government. So you can see how influential that position is, and the Republicans' failure to run really serious candidates in those races really has hurt them, I think. I mean, they have had certainly last time they had a well-financed challenger who came close to winning, but he did not. But in other years, they put up essentially token opposition.
Yeah, and even looking at what would happen if you were to have a Republican attorney general, even with the rest of the levers of state government controlled by Democrats, there could certainly be a lot of havoc that could be caused by that Republican AG. So I imagine they'll certainly be gunning for this seat coming up in this election cycle. So let's at least go through some of the possible candidates that could be running for AG. We, of course, have Tad Jude, who is a former state legislature judge and Hennepin County board member who's been well known in Republican politics for a number of years. Also, Ryan Wilson, who is the losing 2022 candidate for state auditor. We also have Ron Schultz, who comes from the private sector as he works for Robbins Kaplan and was the former chair and current board member of the Center of the American Experiment, and also chair of former Governor Tim Pawlenty's presidential campaign. And then there's a really interesting name that I want to spend some time talking about, and that's Joseph Thompson. He is the current acting U.S. attorney for Minnesota, who's won significant media coverage for his prosecution of widespread fraud in Minnesota's public programs that, of course, we've been seeing for the past few months. So do any of these candidates particularly stand out to you? Because for me, Thompson would make a very formidable candidate, I imagine, for the Republicans if he were to get that nomination.
Yeah, I think that's their dream candidate, given that his record as a prosecutor and his recent acclaim in local media. I would say they still have a long way to go on name recognition. I'm guessing fewer than 10% of Minnesotans know who he is, but he certainly has a good profile. And I think a lot of money would come into that race if he were to run. He also has the advantage of not having a voting record, which is always good because you can't use any bad votes against him. The problem I see is I just don't know that he's actually interested. That's comes from my own conversations with him, and also back to that profile. He seems like a career prosecutor, and as I put it, that kind of work, doing really high-profile prosecutions, is probably more rewarding for that type of person than going around and begging Republican delegates for their convention support after they've quizzed you on, as I said, your thoughts on chemtrails or fluoride in the water or God knows what else Republican convention delegates are interested in.
Yeah, and that's where the real problem could be for Thompson, especially with that statewide convention that would be taking place next year, is that even though he could still run in the primary, getting that endorsement is very important for Republicans. And yeah, I would imagine he would face all sorts of trouble trying to at least get that endorsement from the Republican Party. But I just look at his candidacy. If he were to run against, let's say, if Democrats had both Tim Walz and Keith Ellison on the ballot, Thompson could have a very powerful argument that he could make in a general election campaign. But of course, he's at least got to get through that primary. And I think you and I are both kind of in agreement. That's easier said than done. And that's, of course, if he even decides to run in the first place, which you said is very much up in the air.
Yeah, I asked him and he didn't reply to me. But I'm not even sure that he's Republican. I mean, the first questions is going to be, did you vote for Donald Trump? And he's going to have to answer to that. And I don't know the answer to that. So this may be just wishful thinking. And I suspect that what he really wants is to be the U.S. attorney. But he was not nominated to be the U.S. attorney. So as for now, he's not going to be. I think there was some news out of Washington a couple of weeks ago that there was some kind of a partisan holdup of the U.S. attorney nomination. So who knows? He might be next in line, and maybe he would prefer that job, is what I suspect. But we'll just have to see.
Well, at least as we speculated on some of the names that might be running in the Republican field for AG, at least the field you proposed seems stronger than other statewide races that we've seen in the past for Republicans, where they've run the likes of extremists like Royce White, among others. But do you think if those candidates were to run, or at least a few of them, it at least would give Republicans maybe a little stronger field than they've had in the past with these statewide offices? Granted, as I said, the bar is kind of low for them, but what would you make of that potential field?
Yeah, I mean, there's another name that I added this morning that I did not share on Monday, and that's Harry Niska. He's a Republican floor leader in the Minnesota House. He's somebody who, he can speak in public, and I suspect he could raise money, and so he could be another formidable candidate. However, he may be hoping that Republicans can have a good year next year, and that he would be possibly majority leader of the Minnesota House if they take the majority. And that's that's the second most powerful person in the House, and you're managing the floor and the calendar and everything else. So that may be his interest rather than running for Attorney General. He did run for Attorney General once before and dropped out. It was a very brief run. And so I think that's another name. Ron Schutz, he comes from Robbins Kaplan, a big law firm. As you said, he was at one time chair of the Center of the American Experiment. That leads you to believe he's kind of tapped into the conservative fundraising network that could help him raise money. But we don't know what kind of public figure he would make. Brian Wilson has the advantage of having already run for a statewide office. He lost. Tad Jude has become a little bit of a perennial candidate. So I think he's the weakest of that bunch.
Yeah, I knew I had recognized that name from somewhere. Yeah, he has definitely appeared on many of my ballots that I remember from the past.
Right.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the governor's race now, because you received a kind of an interesting flyer the other day that could lead to some speculation that Walz is potentially seeking a third term. That's because you said you received a fundraiser dated Tuesday, September 9th, that of course is in the future, hosted by Rich Ginsburg, who is a veteran DFL heavy hitter. So what do you think? Should we make anything of this in terms of Walz seeking a third term, or is this maybe just a fundraiser that was going to take place anyways? Or what are you making of this thing that happened?
Yeah, this flyer is floating around for a high dollar fundraiser, and it's on September 9th, which would line up well with Walz's stated what he said previously about announcing a run shortly after the state fair. And I think that tells you that the machinery is in place. Now that said, I don't think that necessarily means he's made up his mind. In fact, I was told by a source close to Walz this morning that he is actually legitimately, sincerely undecided. They know it's an unprecedented thing to be doing a third 4-year term. And it's been a lot for Walz and his family. There was the national political race, and I was losing that race, which is obviously pretty debilitating. You go right into a legislative session, and then he went out on that kind of national political tour to try to rehab his image. And then you get the end of the session and the killing of Melissa and Mark Hortman. So it's been a tough time, and before he decides what he's going to do, I think he wants to be absolutely sure. And it's not something you want to be unsure of when you make the leap into this kind of thing, because it's going to be a tough race, and then you've got the 4 years after that, and certainly it's an all-consuming job. So I do think that he's still making up his mind, but in the meantime, they're putting the infrastructure in place so that if he does in fact run, they'll be ready to go on day one.
And now finally taking a look at a special election that's taking place today. This is for a legislative seat. In fact, there is a DFL primary taking place today in District 34B, which covers parts of Brooklyn Park, Champlin, and Coon Rapids in the North Metro. And it is for former Representative Melissa Hortman's seat, who of course was part of that political assassination we saw back in June. So we are having a special election, at least for the DFL primary, to see who will be the DFL nominee in that race. What do we know about these three candidates, and do any in particular, if they were to win, would they cause any ripples in the DFL? What are your thoughts on who's running, at least in this DFL primary?
There's one candidate named XP Lee, is the DFL endorsed candidate, a health equity strategist for Minnesota Department of Health. He served on the Brooklyn Park City Council for a term. There's someone named Christian Erickson, who is currently on the Brooklyn Park City Council, and he's former chair of the city's Human Rights Commission. And then there's someone named Erickson Say. He was a Hennepin County prosecutor who worked as a DFL organizer previously, has also worked on constituent services in the Walz administration, and worked on voter engagement. So I don't think that any kind of first-year lawmaker is going to have a huge impact on the direction of the legislature. But I do think that filling that seat that Melissa Hortman served for 20 years is a huge, weighty responsibility. And I'm sure all three candidates are aware of that. There is a Republican running, but it is, although it was one time very much a swing district, and Melissa Hortman lost the district twice previously before she won. It's now a heavily Democratic district, so we can expect whoever wins the primary tonight to be seated in that district.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who comes out ahead for the DFL in that race and who will be very likely the future representative in that district, because as you said, there is a Republican running, but it is a very heavy DFL district, and very likely the party will hang on to that seat. We have been speaking with Patrick Coulican, who is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer. Again, best in Minnesota news and politics. Find that over at minnesotareformer.com. Patrick, thanks again for coming on the show today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks.
All right, let's take a break and send things back over to Matt McNeil on AM 950.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. Did you know that August is Pet Appreciation Month? Zero Res doesn't use harsh soaps or chemicals, so it's safe for all your furry friends. If you have a pet like I do, you know they like to leave little bits of themselves around the house, whether that's fur or dander or worse, and you need to call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to help get your house back in shape. Carpets, tile, rugs, upholstery, hardwood, every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. So if it's been months since your last deep clean, it's time to give the pros at Zero Res a call. Right now, you can get your entire home Zero Resified from Minnesota's ultimate carpet cleaner. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $124. Take 15% off pet odor treatments and $50 off an air duct cleaning when you book with Zero Res today. Call 952-ZERO-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com and ask for the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP, or visit snapconstruction.com.
Hi, I'm Rachel Shamblat. My dad is Dr. Scott Shamblat from Shamblat Family Dentistry. A lot of people are afraid of the dentist, but you don't have to be. My dad makes going to the dentist comfortable and even fun. He won't be mad if you haven't seen a dentist in a long time. He just wants to take care of you and your teeth. If you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Find a wide selection of outdoor hearth products at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Whether you prefer wood or gas, Woodland Stoves has the fire to fit your home. Pizza aficionados know nothing matches masonry oven baking for capturing flavor and nutrition. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces can easily install one in your home or business. Enthusiasts use these ovens year-round for bread making, wood roasting, even grilling.
The mission and passion of Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces is to make the fire work for you. The way humans relate to fire is primordial. We have used fire to warm our bodies, cook our meals, and kindle our spirits. Our team has the know-how to do this in a clean burning and environmentally smart way. Visit our store and experience the diversity. We have over 35 working units on display at the corner of Riverside and East Franklin. See us online at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that fits and works for you.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease. It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
Peace of mind shouldn't cost a fortune. We keep things simple at Schroman Law because we believe planning for your estate and end-of-life care shouldn't be stressful or expensive. Every client relationship starts with a free consultation so clients have the information they need before making important decisions. From there, we work closely with clients to ensure they are choosing the most efficient and cost-effective plans for their specific needs. Schedule a free consultation today at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, clear with a low of 61. Then Wednesday, smoky sunshine with a high of 82. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or cafelatte.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Nice to have you with us here today. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. First of all, let's give away those tickets. Brave New Workshop is Hypocalypse Now. Hypocalypse Now is opening night is on Friday at 7:30. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Caller number 5, you're going to win yourself a pair of tickets to the Brave New Workshop's latest production there. Once again, it is for Friday, opening night, 7:30 p.m. If you haven't been, guys, like I said, the last time I was there, I was crying. I was laughing so hard on the finale. It was brilliant. So go check it out. You can win a pair of tickets to do so right now. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. Good luck on that. Also want to make sure I mention two things. One, coming up here right after my show is, of course, Native Roots Radio, I'm Awake. Make sure you stick around for that. Great Native American news that you will not hear anywhere else. It is an incredibly important show, and I highly recommend staying and listening to it. I think it is just absolutely brilliant. Robert, pilot, and crew is sitting there waiting for you, coming up here in just a little bit. Also, tonight, Ghost Box Radio. Greg has got Spiritual Awakening with Psychic Medium, Refined Divine. That's going to be coming up here as well. That's 10 o'clock tonight with Ghost Box Radio. Just stay with us throughout the entire evening and have a good time and enjoy yourself. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. So I've got to actually address something that I might have been wrong on, although going back and reading the original story on this, there wasn't too much in the way of there was apparently a part of the story that was left out the first time, if that was the case. Now, the story has to do with the city of Albert Lea and the smoking tree. Now, this was after 2 weeks after rejecting a license application for cannabis microbusiness, the Smoking Tree. The Albert Lea City Council stood by its earlier decision, denying the business a second time. However, the council did approve 2 other cannabis micro-businesses in the city: Matchbox Farms, Minnesota, the Matchbox Dispensary, operated by father and son duo Chris Garcia Sr. and Chris Garcia Jr., and Black Husky, operated by Christina Aranguiz, a business owner, volunteered background checks that reveals no issues, Albert Lea City Manager Ian Riggs said. And there is where it seems to be the question. Nearly every seat was filled on Monday night, including extra chairs brought in for audience members. A handful of community members spoke out against allowing cannabis dispensaries in Albert Lea, while a few spoke in favor, including Matchbox Farms owner Garcia Sr. A representative for the other one made a similar request. People have different opinions. We can respect that. Our goal is not to change anyone's belief, but to operate a full compliance with Minnesota law and every ordinance the city puts in its place. The council voted 6-1 to approve the first one, and then 5-2 to approve the second one. Chris Garcia Sr., 54, and Chris Garcia Jr., 29, hope to open their dispensary by October 1st. They've met with Minnesota tribes to source products, but plan to eventually grow their own cannabis. The council vote was the last piece of the puzzle for them. It won't be long before we have a lot of different options. Riggs cited the Smoking Tree owner's Jacob Schlichter's statements to the press about opening regardless of registration most recently. A new restraining order against the licensee within the last week as reasons for the denial. Schlichter did not attend the council meeting. The resolution to approve Schlichter's license failed to lack for motion, and no member formally supported it. He opened his shop on August 3rd despite the council's denial 2 weeks ago because it seemed the right thing to do. Although Schlichter didn't have cannabis products to sell, he still talked with the customers and sold clothing. The Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management had previously granted him state approval. Riggs said City Attorney Joel Halstead reached out to the OCM regarding Schlichter's background. Simply put, it did not impact their decision as they were not even allowed to let it impact their own decision. He said Rigg added that the OCM cannot compel Albert Lea to approve one license over another, only that we eventually approve our mandatory minimum, which in Albert Lea is at least 2 cannabis retailers. He commended that the city council's conduct criminal background checks cannabis owners. It's just sloppiness to pass the buck to the government, Riggs said. I urge all local governments to take a hard look and relay their own criminal history background checks to bring this process in parity. So apparently, and this is in the original story here. The what happened in Albert Lea was that they did a background check on him. Now, okay, what's not clear is this: did they do the background check and have that information, and it wasn't released as part of the first story, or after they got blowback from this one, did they do the background check then and then discovered the problems? Basically this, and I'm trying to find where the stuff here in the story here. Riggs cited the Smoking Tree owner Jacob Schlichter's violation of probation, having contact with minors, statements to the press about opening regardless of registration, most recently the new restraining order against the licensee within the last week, the reasons for the denial. Schlichter did not attend the meeting. The Star Tribune, though, did not find any court records of a recent restraining order against Schlichter, although he was convicted in 2017 in Austin, Minnesota, of a gross misdemeanor reduced to a misdemeanor for contributing to the need for child protection or services. According to court records, authorities accused the then 20-year-old of allegedly driving his 16-year-old girlfriend from Texas to Minnesota. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation for August 2017, but violations of the conditions. According to court documents, the judge imposed further conditions in 2018 for the violation, including banning Schlichter from contact with minors or using controlled substances or alcohol. Later that year, he was ordered to serve 30 days in Malheur County Jail for additional probation violations. Court records show no further violations before the probation monitoring ended. He did decline to comment on the charges. The resolution to approve Schlichter's license failed the lack of motion. So what you've got here is there does seem to have been some bad behavior by this individual in the past, which for whatever reason, and like I said, when you go back and read the original story, there wasn't, at least in the original story as it was put forward, I went back and listened to the segment, they didn't say that there was actually some legal problems they had with him opening a dispensary because of his past problems. Now, regardless of whether or not they knew that beforehand or found that out afterwards, that's a very legitimate reason to deny someone a business license. That you've got some previous criminal problems, and that does cause you a problem. So, regardless, the city of Albert Lea, I think I owe you an apology to a point, because that does change the dynamic of this. Now, they go on to basically badmouth the state, saying it's not up to the city to basically have to do a background check. But no, I'm going to disagree with you wholeheartedly on that one. Because the state is not responsible for doing background checks on every business that wants to open up in Albert Lea, nor in Marshall, nor in Thief River Falls, nor in Bemidji, nor in Hibbing. No, that's the city themselves decides who they're going to open a business with. That's on you. And if you want to do background checks on all businesses, that is your choice as a city council. You can do that. If you don't, that is your choice as a city council. But don't basically try to shame the state into covering that for you, because that's a municipal problem, not a state problem. So your argument that the state somehow let you down because they're not doing background checks on this, that's not their job. That's your job, which you did do, whether or not you did it before the first vote or you did it afterwards. Needless to say, it gave you some very legitimate reasons to deny a license. So once again, I owe you an apology because that was not part of that. I did not know that, and that's the case. Like I said, whether that was intentionally omitted from the first story or discovered afterwards. I will also make the point that Albert Lea, and it seems like Albert Lea must have woken up to this, because your problem with marijuana, which you did have a problem with, and the first time this story came on up, there seemed to be we don't like state laws. And I said, fine, then don't be upset when your neighboring communities open up their marijuana businesses and are making a freaking mint while you didn't get there. So clearly something happened to where they realized, you know what, do we really want the neighboring towns to make all the money off this, or should we make that money in town? You wised up to that decision. Good for you. So, and it sounds like you've got two businesses that want to open up. And yeah, I think that that's a very legitimate reason. If he had some problems, and especially the probation violations, you know what? I think that that's a very legitimate reason to basically deny someone's application. So, bon appetit. And Albert Lea, come October 1st, enjoy legally. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break, come back. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Tuesday.
Hi, it's Mitch, owner of Junk Masters. Spring's the perfect time to get your space back and clear out those unwanted items. The best part? Just show us what goes. We are local and independent, just like AM 950. We provide residential and commercial services. Our landfill diversion program includes donating, recycling, and leveraging waste to energy whenever possible. You don't have to worry about a thing. We do all the work for you. Contact us for a free quote. There's no obligation. Visit junkmastersmn.com to get started today.
The Brave New Workshop is a Minneapolis tradition and the nation's longest-running comedy theater, finding ways to make people laugh about things that should make them cry for over 65 years. And who doesn't need a good laugh right now? Seriously, who doesn't need a laugh? Come see their fall show, Hippocalypse Now, a hilarious look at a world where what people say and what people do are completely unrelated. Playing now through November 1st at the Dudley Riggs Theater in Minneapolis. Tickets available at hennepinarts.org. That's hennepinarts.org.
Hi, this is Laura with Food Freedom Radio, and I invite you to discover two local grocery stores with a global fare. Market Fresh, south of Rosedale, carries fresh vegetables, quality meats, seafood, and a wide variety of grocery staples, all in a welcoming store. Shanghai Wholesale Market is in the St. Paul Midway area, and it's a food warehouse open to the public. Shanghai Wholesale carries more than 500 types of noodles. And frankly, it's time for Minnesotans to learn that pasta is a little bit more than spaghetti noodles and tuna casserole. There's sweet potato, bean, rice, fresh, frozen, rye. It's a paradise for those seeking gluten-free pasta. Also, both Market Fresh and Shanghai Wholesale Market seek to buy local, so you can look for local quail eggs, unique cheeses, and Minnesota-made tofu. Open the door to food abundance. Discover Market Fresh, your local Asian food store just south of Rosedale, and Shanghai Wholesale Market, your local international food warehouse north of Menards in the St. Paul Midway area.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
Summer is going fast, but Next Chapter Booksellers has everything you need to keep up with your summer reading. From the hottest new titles to timeless classics, Next Chapter Booksellers has something for any taste. Their friendly staff are great at making recommendations for the perfect summer read for you or your loved ones. Plus, Next Chapter Booksellers has a wide variety of puzzles and games for those rainy days. So keep up with your summer reading at Next Chapter Booksellers off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Oh, Patrick, did we give away some tickets to the Brave New Workshop just a few minutes ago?
We did. Congratulations, Angelo and Shakopee.
Angelo, you're going to go over and enjoy Brave New Workshop's Hypocalypse Now, which is opening night. You will see that there on the 15th at 7:30 p.m. Congratulations on that. I have got 2 pairs of tickets to give away tomorrow, and Nancy Nelson might be with me tomorrow. We're looking like Nancy's going to be joining us along with Jeff Stein. It'll be a heck of a show. Join us on Wednesday for that. One thing I wanted to mention, I talked about this last hour, the soybean prices soured to a 2-week high on Monday after Trump urged China to quadruple its purchases ahead of a tariff truce deadline, though analysts question the feasibility of such a deal. I want to make sure you understand, I'm bringing this story up because the practicality and the reality of these things don't matter. Trump says something and the markets react to it in a positive light. And this is insanely dangerous because reality needs to be behind some of these things. China, the world's biggest soybean importer, has not yet pre-purchased soybeans from the upcoming U.S. harvest amid trade tensions with Washington. The usual delay has fueled concerns for U.S. farmers and traders the harvesting export season. Rapid service will be provided. Thank you, President Xi, Trump said in a late-night Sunday social media post. A tariff truce between Beijing and Washington basically was set to expire, but Trump did sign an executive order extending it. But most active soybean contracts on the Chicago Board trade jumped 2.4% to 10.11 and a quarter per bushel, which by the way is about it's $14 per bushel was what the price was last year. It's down dramatically still, but even that's with the jump. China imported roughly 105 million metric tons of soybeans last year, with just under a quarter coming from the United States and most of the remainder coming from Brazil. Quadrupling shipments would require China to import the bulk of its soybeans from the U.S. China imports the oil seeds to crush into soy meal for livestock feed. After record imports early this year, traders said the glut of soy meal on the Chinese market would likely reduce Chinese demand for soybeans. It's highly unlikely that China would ever buy 4 times its usual volume of soybeans from the U.S., said Johnny Zhang, a founder of the Beijing Bank's Ag Radar Consulting. All right, so I want to make sure I explain what they just said. First of all, China already has a bulk of soy products which they're trying to get rid of. So they're not going to be looking to import. Plus the fact that due to Trump's just disastrous trade policies, the Brazilians have been able to get in there and basically take away 3/4 of our Chinese market away. The China reported roughly imported 105 million metric tons, a quarter coming from the United States, just under a quarter. Most of the remainder come from Brazil. That happened because the first time this idiot was in office, he basically got tough guy and Chinese just said, fine, we'll go get our soybeans from Brazil. Ended up being a disaster. And pork, by the way, that was also a disaster. Well, Trump is saying you need to get 4 times as much. So basically, Trump is saying that even with your soybean, glut, that you need to buy all your soybeans from the United States. They're not going to do that because it's cheaper to get them from Brazil. And so, and right now, if the Chinese wanted to, the Chinese actually themselves could break this country and its economy by just not taking any soybeans at all, because that will start a cataclysmic, fall. And then also the soybean markets fail, the rest of the ag markets collapse, then go to the bond markets, then go the currency markets, and then come the stock market. And hey, it's Johnny Depression time. Anyway, I just want to let you know that Trump's an idiot. And I think that's a pretty easy thing to validate. Native Roots Radio is up next. Have a good one. We are back on a Wednesday. Till then, see ya.
Hey, it's Tom. There's a war being waged.